Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're doing very well this evening, and we're going to be talking lots of things to talk about actually. What an interview that was this afternoon by Flex with not Liam Cantwell, Todd Cantwell and Jamal Lewis of Norwich City. Really interesting chat between those. You can check that out on the page. But we're going to be talking Solskjaer's Pogba transfer warning tonight. You could take it as a Solskjaer transfer warning, but it is interesting because you've got Paul Pogba, who is now being linked to Real Madrid, as we discussed this morning, Juventus, PSG, Inter Milan. But actually, you know what? Evidence is out there to go and take a real big piece of humble pie. Humble pie. I've always struggled with that word. Because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has already given us a very, very big transfer warning. And although a couple of weeks ago he said, we've got our targets and we're still going to have those targets regardless of a lockdown, there are some interesting things that you need to take into account here. And especially around Paul Pogba, and especially around Jack Grealish, and especially around Koulibaly, and especially around Jadon Sancho. And we've already got major hints about what this summer's going to be. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has basically given us that warning. He was asked about Bruno Fernandes in January and whether the fee for Bruno Fernandes came from the summer transfer budget. This summer transfer budget. And he said, of course it is. So Bruno Fernandes, 50 million, came from the summer transfer budget because they had to buy somebody in January that they weren't expecting to buy. So 50 million of our transfer budget in the summer has already been spent on Bruno Fernandes. Look at the last few transfer windows, net spend 60 million. So you could almost say, if we don't sell, how are we going to buy based on previous transfer windows? Now, I think that I don't necessarily think that 60 million net spend is what we're looking to do this summer. But if we were, we've spent it on Bruno already, give or take 10 million. Also, Jadon Sancho is our priority signing. And Ole has also referred to this as well, that, you know, if you spend a lot of money, there might not be any money left. And Jadon Sancho is very much a lot of money. So much money that there might be nothing else. And I've been saying this for a while now. I think it wouldn't surprise me if United's summer was Jadon Sancho and nobody else at all. So the money that, you know, the warning is basically that we've spent 50 million already of our summer transfer budget on Bruno Fernandes. And if we spend 100 million on Jadon Sancho, there is nothing left to spend. So the Harry Kane rumour, which has been absolutely put to bed. Koulibaly today, Manchester Evening News are saying, sources from United basically saying that there is no... Koulibaly is... So it actually says Solskjaer considers Koulibaly to be one of the top 3 centre-backs in the world with Van Dijk and Harry Maguire. I don't consider Harry Maguire to be in the top 3. I'd put him in the top 10. I've always said Harry Maguire's in the top 10. And the thing is, check my tweets. Check it out. About a year ago, I said Harry Maguire is definitely in the top 10 centre-backs in the world before he came to United. And I got laughed at. Now everybody puts him in the top 5. I still wouldn't put him in the top 5, but I put him in the top 10. But we're not looking to sign a player like Koulibaly. We're not looking to sign a player like Koulibaly. And I've been saying this for a while, and it's now starting to come out from Manchester United. Koulibaly's definitely available. Napoli are definitely looking to raise the funds for him, but we're not looking at Koulibaly. So the transfer warnings are there. I think also, let's not forget, and I do keep saying this, but I'll wait about it. I'll talk about it in a minute. But we like to get excited. It's like Christmas, the transfer window with United, because we know we've got to get somewhere. But Solskjaer has dropped hints. He has dropped hints and he has issued warnings, so to speak. He also said that, you know, it's not going to be a summer where we're bringing 6 or 7 players in. And I think that you can pretty much read between the lines with United that quite possibly it's Sancho, Agallo, and that's it this summer. Not even a Grealish comes in, because there won't be an infinite amount of Manchester United money to spend. If we haven't spent loads of money last summer and the summer before that, we ain't about to go and spend a load of money in a financial crisis. So I think that, how does this fit into Paul Pogba, we'll talk about in a minute, but the clues are there with United. We've spent some of our budget on Bruno in January from the summer for this summer. We want Jadon Sancho, but he's going to be expensive, and if we get him, there'll probably be nothing left. That's our transfer window, potentially. And the warning is there from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So why is it a Pogba transfer window? Why is it Solskjaer's Pogba transfer warning? Because Manchester United don't want to sell Paul Pogba, and selling Paul Pogba creates an issue that they're not really wanting to solve. The same thing happened last year. If you spend the money you've got on Jadon Sancho, there's nothing left to spend. That's the end of United's business. If Pogba forces a move, you've then got to use that Pogba money to replace Pogba. And United just don't really want to be spending that much time doing that on what's going to be obviously a very short summer transfer window, unless it gets voided, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I don't see, beyond Jadon Sancho, United doing any business other than Jadon Sancho, because we would have to sell Paul Pogba to generate any funds. We've spent 50 million already on Bruno. That's 50 million spent. You might get some of that money back from sales in the summer. Maybe. I think before the lockdown, I think we could have sold Lingard. We could have sold Phil Jones. But will people want to spend any money on them anymore? I don't know. But once Jadon Sancho's bought, I think that's the budget gone. And probably more than the budget that they want to spend. So I don't see masses of signings. And I think the link to the centre defensive midfielder is interesting. But where are the funds coming from to do all this? We're acting like we're not in a global crisis. We're acting like United have splashed the cash for the last few summers when we haven't. Net spend's been 60 million, like I said. So we've spent 50 already. You spend 100 on Sancho. That's effectively 150 million quid. Where's the money coming in? What if we did sell Pogba and we didn't replace him? And we just got Sancho. I mean, that's why I think it's really important that we keep hold of Pogba. Happy birthday to Maria Treadway, one of our mods. You're the best, says Smutty. Exactly. Big shout out to Maria. And Mark, love you. What time is the quiz tomorrow, says Andrew Chow. 8 o'clock. Always 8 o'clock for that. So join us tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. It's Goldbridge versus DT. Again, in fact, it's Rance and Goldbridge versus DT and whoever he wants to try and take us on with tomorrow night. So looking forward to that. But yeah, look, I think we're going to have some realism in this transfer window. But look, I mean, I'll bring this in. Our realism is still better than most other people's reality as well. Aubameyang very strongly linked to be leaving Arsenal. He wants a new contract and he wants Champions League football, and he isn't going to get that at Arsenal. He's on 200 grand a week already. Wants more than that, and he wants Champions League football. Arsenal resigned to losing another key player, and are United going to enter that race? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think United would go into that race. They're talking about Inter Milan or Barcelona. But it's too complicated with Aubameyang. I think we'd all take Aubameyang, but they're not going to want to sell to a rival. Do we really need Aubameyang? Do we want to pay that amount of money for Aubameyang and those wages? Do we want to do what happened with Arsenal again? I would say Aubameyang's a great player. I really, really like him. But I totally and utterly understand if United swerve this, and I totally and utterly expect Manchester United to swerve it, because it's, look, last time we did it was, we did it with Van Persie and it worked to charm. We did it with Sanchez and it was a disaster. Maybe let's just say we did it once with Van Persie and let's not do it again. Welcome to Nathan Medhurst, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. And they need a defensive midfielder, not an attacker, says Maker Halal. I don't see how United are going to get a centre defensive midfielder. I mean, I've been very consistent about this. I said we won't sign a centre back and we won't sign a centre defensive midfielder, and I don't think that we will. I'd like to be proven wrong, but I don't think that we will. And that's interesting as well. I mean, I don't know whether any of you saw Roy Keane on Sky Sports this morning, but he was talking about transfers, etc. And he was saying a left back and a centre back because he's not been impressed by our centre backs or Luke Shaw. I mean, Roy Keane is, my favourite Manchester United player. I love Roy Keane as a player. I think he's massively watchable as a personality. But I've got to say, as much as I love Roy Keane as a player, I disagree with half of the things that he says. I mean, I don't get what his issue... I mean, at the start of the season, he had a go at Fred. And look how that worked out. So, pardon me if I don't actually take a lot of attention as to what Roy Keane says a lot of the time. And I don't know what his problem is with Luke Shaw. Because when Luke Shaw got that bad injury, he said it was a good tackle. It was a bloody appalling tackle. And now he's saying that he's not convinced by Luke Shaw. Which, in fairness, a lot of you aren't convinced by Luke Shaw. But all I can say about Luke Shaw is superb since January. And fans player of the year last season. So, I mean, what more can Luke Shaw do? He's playing as one of the best left backs in England at the moment. He was last season's fans player of the year. I mean, I don't really understand what more Luke Shaw can do. And also, when Roy says we need another centre-back, I mean, to me, the centre-back is the seasoning. It's not the ingredients of the cake. Don't season a cake. It's the icing on the cake, a centre-back. We've got to make the cake first. And we need a right winger, we need a centre defensive midfielder, and we need a striker, and then we can get a centre back. But to me, I mean, the way Roy Keane said it, he was like, we need a left back and a centre back. Never even mentioned a right winger, never mentioned a striker, and I'm like, come on. I mean, why are you mentioning a centre back and a left back? We need a right winger and a forward, and I don't know whether that's just because it's known, but I don't necessarily agree with that. What happened to the Lukaku money, says Mayank? I don't know. I don't know where the money goes from United. There's a lot of money that goes out of United. Shaw is average, says Jacob, and Shaw is great, says the Crimson Chip. How confident are you about the Sancho deal, says Aidan Russell? I'd say it's dropped a bit. I think at one point over the last 2 weeks I said it was like 70%, which is high. I mean, 50-50 chance on a transfer is high. It is. A 50-50 chance on a transfer is high. I would say I've dropped to about 60% on Jadon Sancho. I'm just all right, I'll be honest. The only thing that worries me about the Sancho deal is the world we're living in. Like, there is let's get on to this. The Eredivisie, or the Dutch League, as you might call it, has been voided. And there may well be other clubs and other leagues that void. And if they void, there's a massive void in clubs' bank accounts. So how can Manchester United go and sign Jadon Sancho if they can't afford to do it? Dortmund don't need to sell Sancho. They'll be happy to keep him for another year. So that's what worries me about the Sancho deal. I'm sure he wants to come. I know we want him. But will the market allow it to happen? That's why I've dropped off a little bit. I still think we'll do it, but I have dropped off a little bit about that. Selling Pogba to fund other transfers might be a solution, but I just think selling him for anything less than 100 million is pointless, says Adams Zenicola. The thing that worries me, Adams, is that if we sold Paul Pogba to fund the Sancho deal, are we in a better position? Because that midfield isn't good enough. It needs, and if Pogba goes, it needs another midfielder to come in. You can't get rid of Pogba for a right winger, and that would be massively naive. So I would love Pogba to stay and Sancho to come in. That's the best scenario. But we'll see how it develops. It's funny actually. I was playing. I wasn't playing FIFA. I've just finished. Oh, don't talk to me about my FIFA career mode. I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted. But anyway, that's not real. Although it feels real. It feels very real at the moment. Bold twat. Anyway, enough of that. Reality. The Dutch League has been voided. I put it up a tweet this afternoon and I said, Dutch League voided, Liverpool fans be very worried. And some Liverpool fan went, you stupid prat, it's not been voided. And I was like, mate, AZ Alkmaar and Ajax are not winning the title and the teams at the bottom are not getting relegated. The season's voided. It's been cancelled. Do you understand what void means? The Dutch League has been voided. The Belgian League has been voided, but it was basically over anyway, because in the Belgian League, they get to a certain point and then the top so many clubs do a playoff. So it was basically over anyway. But the Dutch League has been voided. Like, everything from this season doesn't count. All the goals people have scored. I can't think of any players who play in the Dutch League at the moment. I actually can't think. Ziyech, yeah, all his goals this season don't count for Ajax. Van der Beek as well. So this is Ajax. This is a big club in Europe and their league has been voided. So it's wake up and smell the coffee time for those people like me who think that won't happen to the Premier League. Because it's happened in a major league now. Now, as I understand it, there are no Dutch clubs in the Europe anymore. Champions League or Europa League. So that, makes it more of a domestic decision. But that domestic decision has been made by the government saying that there will be no games, closed behind doors or not, before September the 1st. Well, look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong here. But what's different about Holland to France, to Italy, to Germany, to Spain, to England? Now, Germany looks like it's in a good place because they're doing a lot of testing and they seem to be doing better than most. But is Holland in a much worse situation to the UK or Spain or Italy? And that is what is worrying me now, is that what if the La Liga suspends, voids, Serie A voids? I think the more teams that void and the more clubs that void, the more likelihood the Premier League is going to void. And a lot of people I'm talking to over the last sort of 24 hours are saying, I don't see, it's highly unlikely that we'll see football in the Premier League in June. So I don't like where this is going. And I think that it's starting to really concern me that we may not see the season finished, and that really saddens me. It saddens me the situation we're in. Of course it does. That's the real issue here. But in a footballing sense, it saddens me that we're going to have a league that means nothing. You know, the Marcus Rashford free kick against Chelsea, written out of history, because the season's voided. It's really sad. I mean, I don't know whether the Carabao Cup, that goal probably won't be written out of history because the Carabao Cup's been completed. So actually, that's a positive, I suppose. But there are plenty of goals. There are, you know, all Dan James goals for United won't count. All Wan-Bissaka's brilliant performances won't count. I mean, they will count because we'll remember them, but they won't officially be games. Wan-Bissaka's official first Premier League game will be next season if this season gets voided. It's weird. All their stats are gone. And that's sad because what if Wan-Bissaka suddenly plays shit next season? You know, it's just, I can't get my head around it, but it's the world we're living in. Andrew Chow says Dutch League have their season voided. Yesterday, German League could restart May the 9th. How is this possible where you have different countries doing this? And they're right next to each other, Holland and Germany. Hope all is well with you and your family, Mark. I like the new layout on screen. Keep up the great content. I miss the United games watch-alongs. It became enjoyable routine, says Junior Hassan. We'll get them back, Junior. We will get them back. I remember the first... I was actually at my sister-in-law's. It was actually my sister's, actually, and my brother-in-law's. Probably 5 weeks ago now. I did a live stream, and it was right at the start. It was the day after the last Lynx game. And... yeah, it feels a long time ago now. I just think you just got to take it every day at a time. If English football is voided, then would City still hold the Carabao Cup because the season is voided, says Moj. I think so. I mean, that technically I don't know, but I would have thought so because the Carabao Cup has been completed. But what do you think about the swap deal between Martial and Werner since Werner has better work rate? No, Aditya. Terrible idea. We're not doing that. And Sheffield United will be devastated, almost a Champions League place, as Alex R7. No, I think it's unfair on Sheffield United, but I don't think they were ever going to get a Champions League spot either. So, yeah, they'll have something to moan about, but I don't think they were ever going to have a Champions League spot. I think we were going to get a Champions League spot, and I think we probably still will get a Champions League spot. So it's a risk if the season gets voided, but we could still get a Champions League spot because I think Man City's ban, which is 2 years, will be upheld by a year. So 5th place would be us. So we would get the Champions League that way. But I'm very, very against the season being voided. I was actually getting quite excited as well about it all being played in a month, 9 games. I was, anything would do. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think that the Eredivisie, the Dutch League being voided, really is a significant statement in football because I think we will see others go. And I'm just fingers crossed it won't be ours. I think we'll see some leagues completed, by the way. Fingers crossed ours will be one of those. Premier League will lose millions, says Evan Dowd. They will do, but it's what the government want to do. And also, as somebody said last night, what about this, people? What about this? What if the British government say no games and then another country says you can play them here? Can we move the Premier League to do it? I don't know. Thinking out the box. If the season is voided, will the players need to pay back their goal or match day bonuses, says Bogdan Gavrila? I doubt it. I just think they will be given in good faith, but their stats won't be. Mark, don't you see a similarity in the Sancho deal and the Bruno, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Maguire deal? Both took time, 3 weeks, had uncertainty, eventually happened, will happen, says Chief Leave Gamer. Well, no, I don't see any similarity at all with the Sancho deal because we're not in the transfer window. This debate around Sancho is happening because there's no football. So people have got more time to talk about deals. But the transfer window is not even open. So all these weeks it's taken with Sancho, we're not even talking to Dortmund. So I don't see any similarities. I just think it's a conversation because it's all we've got to talk about at the moment. And it's all that everybody's got to talk about because there's no football. If football was ongoing at the moment, there wouldn't be much talk about Sancho because everyone would be focusing on the football. The real Sancho talk starts when the season ends and the transfer window opens, doesn't it? Which, you know what? The transfer window, if the season is voided, then the transfer window will still open. And how do you deal with the transfer window then? I mean, that's something nobody's really discussed. Imagine the Premier League say we can't play any more games. We're hoping to start again in September. The transfer window opens at the end of May. What do clubs do? Do they have any money to spend? I doubt it. It'd be really, really bad. In case of the season being voided, would top 4 be decided the way the table is right now, or as per what it was at the end of last season, says Mojo? I don't think they can do it like last season. I think they'd have to do it now. Any Sancho updates? Do you think we are favourites, says Sagor Kapoor? I know we're favourites. 100% we're favourites for Jadon Sancho. Yeah, no doubt about that. If a player gets corona and infects the whole team, what happens to upcoming games if they continue the season? It would be a tight schedule without, says John Chiju66. Yes, yes, it is an issue if somebody gets coronavirus in a Premier League team. The Premier League probably has to shut down. This is the problem they've got. Yeah, it's problematic. It is problematic. There are problems. There are problems to do it, and how we come out of that, we will find out. But there are definitely bridges to cross in relation to it as well. PSG and Barcelona. Ow, you bloody bastard! I've just caught my ankle on the wooden chair. It's like getting studded on it. Shithouse. Anyway, sorry about that. It really hurts. Oh, it's aching up to my knee. Anyway, in Ireland, all gatherings of 5,000 are banned till at least August the 31st, and all sports are cancelled. Why 5,000, Kevin O'Keefe? Don't you mean 5? Football's coming back. Don't stress, lads, says Michael Wonder. And yeah, just talking about Deleu. Barcelona are interested in Bellew. He's off bloody Jungle Book. I'm the king of the jungle. I'm a jungle VIP. And that's what's bothering me. Oh, oopie-doo. Oh, imagine if Deleu did that. Anyway, Deleu. Barcelona and PSG are interested in him. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I said it yesterday. Not seen I like Deleu, but not seen anything of him to make me think, oh, he's got to stay when we've got Wan-Bissaka. Get 20 million for him, off you pop. Got your money back. Wan-Bissaka's going to be our first choice right back for years. Get an understudy. I'd take the money, because that could be money that you can use towards the Sancho deal. So I would let Deleu go. I know it's harsh, but you know what? 2 words I've always said about the transfer window. Be ruthless in who you're getting rid of, and be aggressive in who you want to get in. Ruthless aggression. That's what you've got to be in a transfer window. And I don't think we have been like that enough over the years. Nathan Medhurst says, I'm glad to be part of the United Stand family. When the market opens and borders are still closed, how are players meant to pass physicals, etc.? Good point. I presume, look, flights are still taking place, by the way. Flights are still taking the place. I think Bruno Fernandes is back in Portugal. Lindelof's back in Sweden. They've moved when lockdown was on, so flights are still taking place. Hi Mark from Mauritius. Would you prefer keeping Lindelof/Bay to Ansebi to play alongside Maguire, or would you prefer bringing in a top-class centre-back like a Skriniar or De Ligt? Keep up the great content. It depends on the money, Samuel. If you've got money to spend the money on De Ligt or Skriniar. If that money would be better off spent on a CDM, I'd buy a CDM. So if you've got infinite money, I would bring a centre-back in. But for me, a centre-back is at least 4th priority behind a centre defensive midfielder, a striker and a right winger. If the season gets voided, which means there's no PPG, and you know which team that finished 5th last season, we're back, lads. Bayern ain't ready, says Not Sure. You know what? I was asked the other day, Not Sure, who's the best team in North London. And I said, quite honestly, based on form, I would have to say Bayern Munich. Because they're the team that comes into North London and smashes your ass. Arsenal being in the Champions League would be an absolute farce. It's bordering farcical if we get in it, but we are in 5th. So if Champions League banned for Man City, we're in 5th. But Arsenal in 8th, who've not been in the Champions League for 3 years, to get in the Champions League next year, ahead of teams like Leicester, it would be a farce. It really would. With all the objections and backlash happening with the Saudi takeover of Newcastle, it would have been a media circus if the Saudis were buying us, says Mojo. Yeah, you know what? I know enough. I know enough about the City situation, the Saudi situation, because they were linked to buying us. I don't really care. If Newcastle want to sell their club to the Saudis, crack on. I've seen Blackburn, Chelsea, Man City have money. Why shouldn't Newcastle have money? Why are Man City and Chelsea and everybody else sticking their nose in when they've benefited from rich owners? I find it a bit sour grapes, really. And I'm sure United are probably trying to stop it as well. But I think, at the end of the day, so what? So what? Anyway, chuck me some questions. Ask me anything, time. Let's see what you got to say. Imagine the season is void and we get Champions League and Sancho plus Pogba stays and Liverpool won't win the league, says Jacob Riff MU. I mean, that scenario, where do I sign up? I mean, I don't know. You know what? I'm quite moral on this. And I know most of you would do it, and there's a massive part of me that wants to do it. But if somebody said to me, it's up to you, Goldbridge. There's the void season button. There's the carry on season button. If you avoid it, United are still going to get Champions League football. Pogba's going to stay. Sancho's going to come in, and Liverpool won't win the league. If you carry on with it, you've got to win Champions League football. You will still get Sancho. Pogba will still stay, but Liverpool will win the league. What do you want to do? I would still go play. I just want to see football. I want to see us get top four. I want to see us improve. And I think these last 9 games of the season are massive for United, because those 9 games with these players will tell us so much more for next season that we won't know if we have to start new next season how we are now. I think that, but then again, I've got the power to stop Liverpool winning the league. But I think voiding the season to stop Liverpool winning the league, whilst it would be ridiculously banter and Liverpool would just be devastated, so there are positives, I do also think deep down, like E17 deep down, I do feel that it's very unfair to basically win a title and have it taken away. I mean, it's funny, but it's very unfair as well. It really is unfair. And even to say it against the Liverpool fan, and I know a lot of United fans will be saying you're a bloody idiot saying it, but look, what I do is I often think, well, what if the boot's on the other foot? What if this was happening to us? And I suppose you could say, well, we've won so many, it doesn't matter. But I just want to see the season completed. I do. If it doesn't get completed, I won't cry about it, but I'd like to see it completed. It's a sunny Saturday in August 2021, and United have 3 players in the lineup ready to make their debut: Sancho, Wan-Bissaka and Maguire. August 2021, Adams. Bloody hell, that is depressing. I tell you what, if football didn't come back till 2021, how many people would be interested? We'd all be probably absolutely, what's the word? Delirious. I don't know what I'd be doing with myself. The dumb one says, football will be back. Those who die from COVID-19 won't. All decisions taken need to be on the shoulder of science. I miss football too. Yeah, and that's a very, very mature and hard-hitting statement. Football will be back at some point, but those who die of COVID-19 won't. And look, as I said to you before, my football coach as a teenage lad, my best part of my football career, my football coach, who was my best mate's dad, he died of this virus 3 weeks ago. So when people say to me, what are you talking about football coming back, it's really insensitive. You can get closer than that, but that's pretty hard. I know people who've died of this, so it's not insensitive to say I want football back. He would have wanted football back. I know for a fact he loved it. So it's not the people. Clive Tilsley said it brilliant when he was on the show. Football is the most important thing of the most unimportant things right now. But it's a normality, and it keeps us feeling normal in a time where we're very abnormal. So I make no apologies for doing the shows every night at 8 o'clock and keeping the conversation going, because you help me and hopefully I'll help you. And I do want football back in June, but we'll have to wait and see. Do you see Ollie's 4-2-3-1 being successful in the long run, says Dub Gamer? No. I mean, look, I don't know how many of you watched the video this afternoon. It was live as well. I've got to applaud Todd Cantwell and Jamal Lewis, left back for Norwich and left midfielder for Norwich, coming on the United stand live. They did this afternoon, talking about the games against United. Todd Cantwell saying he doesn't get why people are have a downer on Pogba, but I we did it with Troy Deeney a month ago. We've done it with 2 Norwich lads now. Hopefully we'll get to play them in the FA Cup. But it's just really interesting to see, I think ex-players are interesting. But listening to players who are recently playing in the Premier League against our players and what they've got to say about how we play and how good people are, and they were saying, Rashford's just on another level, which he was in both Norwich games. Massively interesting and a really, really, really enjoyable interview. I mean, I've still got 20 minutes of it to watch because I had to go and use the toilet. But check it out on the homepage. Absolutely fantastic and really good chat about the tactical side of things as well. Actually, one of the questions I put to them was that, when we played Norwich at Carrow Road, we were in a bad position. In fact, I can tell you how bad a position we were in. We'd just drawn with Liverpool. In fact, our last 4 games before we played Norwich away at Carrow Road, we'd lost at West Ham, we'd drawn at against Arsenal, we'd lost at Newcastle, and we'd drawn with Liverpool. And then we beat Norwich, and then we lost to Bournemouth. It was a really bad run for us, but we smashed Norwich. We smashed Norwich at Carrow Road. I think it was it 4-0 or something, or 4-1, or 3-1, something like that. And I'm really crap on remembering scores. And I said to them, Norwich play quite an open way, and we hit you on the break, and there was a lot of space. And they said, well, that's just the way we play. And United at the moment play this sort of counter-attacking football. Wouldn't Liverpool players be psychologically exhausted if the season voided, lost to City by a point last season, and then when almost through to the title, they don't win it by a fingernail, says Mojo. But it could galvanise them as well. I've said this before. I think if it happened to United under Sir Alex, I'd guarantee that we'd win the title the next year because you'd be so motivated. Nick P says, thick or thin became bechamel sauce. I like it thin. I think so it gets in all the cracks, says Nick P. I like a medium bechamel sauce, to be honest. And Mark, why do you think the Dutch League announcers void it this time? Surely they could have waited. How much longer until UEFA or the Premier League may also void, says Andrew Chow. And either way, we are buggered. Liverpool win, they finally get their win. Title taken away, we would never hear the end of it. What would you prefer, says Lee Taylor. I focus on United, and I would rather we finish the season and I got to see Bruno and Pogba and everybody get as top 4. That's what I'm focused on. When do I think the Premier League will get voided? I think May is critical. I think May is critical because in May they'll know how much longer the thing's going to go for, and if it's going to go into July they're going to have to void it, but they'll know in May if that's going to happen. So I think the next 3 weeks are critical for the Premier League, and I think we'll get a decision. Please smash a like on the video, everybody. Make sure you subscribe if you are new and keep sharing the video. What's up, Marky Mark? I met you at the United Stand get together in London. Can't wait for the next one. Northeast LA in the house, says Tito the Fool. I remember you, Tito. Thanks for coming over. And Julian Lee says, void it. Those Scousers have been gloating all year, saying they are second coming. Singapore is mainly Liverpool or United fans. Everywhere I go, there are Liverpool tops. Haven't seen so many in years. Well, everyone's got a choice. Everyone's got a choice to make. That's the great thing about an opinion, isn't it? And I get it. I get why people want the season to be completed, United fans. And I get why United fans want it to be voided because of the Liverpool thing. I get it. But you know what? This is interesting. I have this in the back of my pad. And it's a list of all United's Premier League games this season. And when you've got it written down in front of you, you can really delve into bad times of the season because it stares out at you. And you know what I always say is that we were on course for our lowest ever. We're on course for our lowest ever Premier League points total, 64. To not get that, we need to win virtually all of our last 9 games. So we've had a bad season, and people forget that. And when I look at this, some of the runs of games we had, we drew with Wolves, we lost to Palace, we beat Leicester, but then we lost to West Ham, we drew with Arsenal, we lost to Newcastle, we drew with Liverpool, we beat Norwich, but then we lost to Bournemouth, beat Brighton, drew with Sheffield United and drew with Villa. Terrible run. Then we beat Spurs and City, but drew with Everton, lost to Watford. And then we beat Newcastle and Burnley, but lost to Arsenal, beat Norwich, lost to Liverpool, lost to Burnley, drew with Wolves. And it's just that there's not a lot. Throughout the whole season, we've never won 3 Premier League games in a row. And for Manchester United, that's bad. I mean, we've done a couple of times we've won back to back, Spurs and City. The first time we won back to back Premier League games was Spurs and City in December. Then we did it again in late December with Newcastle and Burnley. Then we did it again at the start of February with Chelsea and Watford. So we've done it 3 times now, but that's only a 2-game run. We've never won 3 Premier League games in a row this season. So it's been a very up and down season, as Gabriel says. And that's why, to me, that's really important. I'm not throwing negativity there. I'm saying this season's been a bad season. It has been a bad season, but I really felt that in these last 9 games, we were going to end it with probably, I think, 7 wins and a couple of draws. I think we would have won a lot of games. And I think by doing that, we would have got top 4. So that's, for me, why I wanted to get it done. But it was interesting. The Norwich lads were saying if it comes back, then they're going to treat it like a mini season because they may as well just go for it. I mean, if it's voided, Norwich don't get relegated as well. Leeds don't get promoted. So there's all sorts of stuff to think about. There really is. Anyway, look, remember tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we've got what we got tomorrow night, people. You know it, I know it, you know it, I know it. It's the quiz. 8 o'clock tomorrow night, the United Stand quiz. It's all on football tomorrow night, so it's going to be cracking. AFTV, United Stand. They moaned about losing. We said, we'll beat you again. Me and Rance will beat you again. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, the United Stand quiz. Make sure you join us for that with your pen and paper because it's interactive, of course. Have a great evening and start to your weekend. You can check out my FIFA career mode on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, if you want to. Or my cooking lesson. If you fancy a lasagna this weekend, check out Goldbridge Cooks Lasagna. But thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. And have a good start to the weekend. I'm going to go and have a beer too.